And we're back.
To another episode of But Wait, There's More, episode 14. Last episode, they had finished off a ice dragon, white dragon, easy peasy. Even finished off the mate and the couple trolls that I sent after him after the fact, because they just blew the first one out of the water, or out of the ice. And they met some recurring characters, Boo Troll and Tivitroll. I am going to be working them back into the campaign at some point, and they'll probably be recurring characters in some of my other campaigns. They will just be ubiquitous.
Boo Troll and Tivitroll's bait shack.
Yeah. Now they are sailing on their little Viking ship back to Waterdeep, and they get ambushed by pirates on what is essentially an East Indiaman. Now, this is something that I'd had in the works for a long time. As with Fergus's character, I wanted to work in backstory for as many characters as possible, and in this particular case, it's for Ito, our wizard. His master was captured by pirates, and he got sent off, and that's how I met the group and whatnot. So now I'm giving him the chance to find and potentially rescue his master. Now, when presented with this situation, the first thing he says is, "I'm going to burn it down." This big, beautiful ship that myself, Ray, and another gentleman who will eventually join the group, worked long and hard on. We started about, 7 in the evening?
It was about 7 in the evening, and when we were finished, the sun was coming up. So it was kind of a one-shot deal. Hans had originally begun laying out with graph paper to approximate the shape of the decks, just for the sake of us being able to go, okay, my character is here. But we're sitting here looking at him, and he's working diligently at it. It's like, oh, no. We've got cardboard, glue, and razor blades. We can make something better than that. And we did.
And it grew. We started off with this beauty right here. This is all cardboard and grid paper and some little wooden circles that I had laying around because I'm a hobby snob and I have all kinds of knickknacks and doodads for making things. And then they're like, well, we need pirate ships, so let's build it. And Ray works with foam, certain type of industrial...
Diphenylmethane diisocyanate, otherwise known as really nasty yellow foam.
And that foam became this because he is a master at shaping foam. So all of this is that foam, that big long word. And then we spackled it, and I painted it, and we made masts. Yes.
And the scale is relative.
Yes. We did the best we could. It obviously, the scale's not perfect, but for running around with your little D&D characters and having pirate battles on the high seas, hey,
works for me.
And so Steve's response of, I want to burn it down. I'm over here going, no! We put all this work into it. And Spencer had to reach over on the side and be like, you don't want to do that. But I really do. No, you don't want to do that. And he eventually talked Steve down, and they didn't burn the ship, and they had a little boarding action.
It's like he's standing there by the rail, and I mean he's got the cowl on the robes thrown back, and he's got this coruscating ball of fire in the middle of his hands, getting ready to fireball this enormous floating ball of pitch. It's like, oh, that's gonna burn beautifully. Stop him!
because and I not just because he would burn down this beautiful ship, but because it's his adventure hook. The person who this entire thing is for is just going to completely nuke the entire adventure hook. It's like, no, what are you doing? Stop it, you crazy man! So he stops, but even before that battle happens, another incident happens in tandem with it. Now, if you recall, there was a certain kerfuffle with the White Dragon of a certain young sorceress who, yes, sorceress, who double fireballed a White Dragon before the Dragon Hunter had a chance to finish it off, and burnt up the corpses and completely ruined any kind of valuable hide. And well, there were repercussions. The repercussions being, before the battle starts, an sea avian, pick your choice, a parrot, seagull, albatross, a bird that does not speak, lands on Heldena, the sorceress, lands on her shoulder, and with a very pronounced lisp, says, "Death cometh for you." Now, that voice, most of the party has not heard that voice, because that voice belongs to the Grassy Knoll, my Knoll sniper. Now, you recall several episodes back, Grassy Knoll got in a sniper battle with Turin, our ranger, and proceeded to outduel him very effectively. Well, seeing as Grassy Knoll is a bounty hunter, Turin, through various magical means, got in contact with the Grassy Knoll and put out a very large bounty on the young sorceress's head. He paid through the nose. He spent every dime, every gold piece he had, which was 20,000 gold pieces, and put out a bounty on his head. And so the parrot, or albatross, whatever, critter thing, was the harbinger of that attack. Now, I did this as a warning so that he would know that something was up, that there would be a clue, as like this was not coming from the pirates. In fact, later on you'll see that the pirates didn't have much ranged weaponry to begin with. But anyway, so the critter says, "Death cometh for you." And I chose that voice because I thought it'd be ridiculous to have this really gnarly sniper have a really gnarly lisp.
Large, very muscular, very scary creature, a gnoll, naturally, in a ghillie suit, and so you never see him coming. The only time you know that he's there is when somebody's already been shot. So, and on top of that, he uses an oath bow. Now, this was a new term to me, but it's one of those deals where if you cut the deal and you're going to go after somebody, you swear on the bow. And then you go after whoever it is that you're after. And it adds bonuses.
It adds extra damage dice. And on top of that, he had some arrows of human slaying.
That's a thing. Good. Who knew?
Well, arrows of slaying, you can have any kind of arrow slaying that you want. Dragon, human, whatever. It's just you have to pay money. And
Gully dwarves? Terrible.
Yeah,
that's just not fair.
Yeah, that's too easy.
It's a pen.
Yeah. But he paid through the nose, and so he got results. Now, I'm not a big fan of PvP in my campaigns. PvP being player versus player. Now, I was going to allow this because the person was understandably upset with the situation. He wanted to put out a bounty, so I agreed. However, I did save the character. Now, he got his results. The Grassy Knoll from a griffin several 100 yards out
And up.
and up, shoots Heldena with 2 arrows of human slaying, putting him out completely. Now, when you go down to 0 hit points in D&D, you don't die. You get to make death saving throws. However, if you get hit with an attack when you are at 0 hit points, that would do your maximum number of hit points that you would have. It slays you outright. So with 2 arrows, this character is slain outright.
But
There's more. Going back to the I don't like PvP thing, I wanted it to be a lesson, not I don't like you, I'm going to kill your character kind of thing. The character died. However, in the moment of his death, time stopped. There were wind chimes, almost like it was like ice chiming in the wind. And Mab, the queen of air and darkness, the queen of the dark fairies, stops time, tears open a rift in reality, and saves him. But in the process of saving him, turns him into a warlock. Basically, I make him multi-class into a warlock. He stops being he still has all his previous sorcerer levels, but now from then on he has to take levels in sorcerer. And again, this was one of those where I didn't want his class to change too much. Both the sorcerer and the warlock both use the same spellcasting stat, which is charisma. So I kept it in that vein and allowed him to be very effective in what he does. And he being the player. And so this also allowed me, whenever he was going to take a side trail or die in some fashion,
fall victim to youthful enthusiasm.
Excellent phrase.
It's the easiest way to explain it. It's like, hold on, buddy, you might want to think about that before you do that and get not only yourself, but half of us killed.
So it made it so that whenever he would go to do something questionable, I could stop time.
Questionable, suicidal.
And Mab would step out and be like, "What are you doing? Stop that! Stop it!" And then she would go back to Fairy. Time would start again. Nobody would be the wiser except for him, and then it would continue on. Now, one time I was not quick enough to prevent suicidal tendencies because I could not foresee certain things being said, but that's later on.
That's later.
So that happened. Now, the jacked up part is, even with the message beforehand and getting saved, and the fact that the pirates didn't have a lot of ranged weaponry.
Not a bow among them. And they came over the rail at us. Now, like I said, this is to scale. It's like we had a hard time getting at them. They could fall over the rail onto us. But the ensuing melee was interesting.
Yeah. But again, not a bow among them. Never once asked a question. And never wondered how it happened or why. It's just like, okay, I guess I'm a part warlock now. And poor Turin was like, 20,000 gold! 20,000 gold! And it was like, sorry, dude.
Lesson learned.
Like I let you do it, and I warned you. I'm not gonna kill off his character. I'm not gonna let you kill off his character permanently. And it was.
It was a thing.
It was a thing. But moving on from that, the melee with the pirates kind of went in this fashion. The pirates come sailing up, and it was really neat to see the two ships side by side and have the party on the little small Viking boat, and then the pirates come sail in. And
Yeah, there's no way we could run from them.
no.
It's just the sail plan alone, and just they've already coming at us full bore already. You know, it's like we're sweeping south out of the sea of moving ice, and well, they bounced us, plain and simple. It's like nobody spotted them until it was too late, and we had been recovering at that point because we had the two sea dragons.
Yes. Previous to this, they did have a small encounter with two sea dragon turtles. Dragon turtles are, for lack of a better way of putting it, just giant freaking turtles.
Yeah, the aquatic version of they're dragon-esque. You know, they're a lot of hit points, a lot of armor, have a tendency to be territorial, and this was probably a mated pair that thought that a longship would be tasty.
And they broke the mast, and so now they're kind of adrift and just rowing.
Yes, that was one of the reasons why we couldn't set sail. The current mast is the one that we use for in-store now, because anybody might want to use these. But at the time we were rowing because we hadn't stepped the mast yet, because we were trying to pick up the pieces and throw all the splinters over the side. And then it's like, oh look, a sail. Oh wait, many sails. Oh, and well, it's row faster, put the dwarf on one oar. But didn't work.
And it was actually a pretty harrowing fight, because on the ship was a storm sorcerer. A storm sorcerer is a spellcaster that specializes in wind, thunder, and lightning magic, as well as her bodyguard, a giant, well, a Goliath barbarian named Philip. Those of you who watch Critical Role will get that reference.
The great warrior Philip.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Ping, the storm sorcerer, she's a gnome. No, halfling. It was. No, Ping's a halfling. I have Spencer over here in the audience, and I'm pretty sure she's a halfling. Anyway, either gnome or very small individual. Okay. I guess
Gnomes are cuter.
Just wondering.
Well, depends on your preference.
Yeah, well, yeah, that
I like
can
Yeah. Anyway, she's pretty gnarly, and she showed. I was right, huh? Halfling.
Never mind.
She did some serious work, and she put in some damage. And all the while, there's somebody yelling at her and Philip, to kill us faster. And what it turned out to be is that she was under the sway of not a mind control collar, but a slave collar that essentially made it so that she had to obey the individual that was in charge. The backstory behind this is that her and her ship, the Storm's Fury, were captured by a pirate lord. In fact, the pirate lord that the group is going after to try and kill and take out and rescue Ito's master from, captured her ship and essentially enslaved her and her crew to do his bidding. And so the fighting men of the ship that they were engaged with were actually the jerks that was controlling her. And I tried to convey that with the yelling and really trying to make it seem like those two in particular were holding back.
Yeah, the actual rank and file of the crew that answered to Ping, it's pretty much they work the ship, and it's just that there's this group of raiders on board that are actually the muscle not only do they do the fighting, they also keep the crew cowed. Most of the crew is below decks, and they have just enough on deck to be able to handle the mast, the rigging, and so on. That way, they don't actually get jumped by 3 times their number. Well, in the ensuing melee, once we start to figure out that there's more than meets the eye, because the sorcerer in the back of the ship, way back there, is throwing spells, very actually crispy, nasty spells, but you can tell her heart's not in it. It's just doing the bare minimum for the guy that's in charge.
She's following orders, but she's only following orders to the point where she is completing them with the minimum amount of effort and damage as possible. Until he starts saying, kill them, hurt them, save me, kind of thing. And Philip, who was engaged with our monk Caliban, because Caliban, being a monk, can just run up walls.
Yeah, that was cute.
Caliban decides that he's going to run up the side of the ship and engage this huge barbarian. And
this huge freaking guy.
Yeah. Good reference. So the monk is engaging this huge freaking guy, and the barbarian is like, "Oh, little man, you're cute," and they're going at it. Well, because the barbarian is taking a licking, but he's just standing there like,
"Oh,
stop that." Yeah, and he's got this big freaking rancier. Now what that is, it's like a pole arm, essentially.
It's a 3-meter pike.
Yeah, and so you have this guy who's just wielding this completely unwieldy thing very skillfully, and we're laying into Caliban, but at the same time you're saying, "I'm sorry, I don't want to hurt you."
Smack.
BAM! And knocks him off of this ship onto this ship. Oh yeah. Well, okay, not with the Rancier. Thank you for reminding me.
Hand signals from the control booth. Please bear with us.
Yeah, I forgot. The barbarian also had a battering ram on his back that he called his floaty because he can't swim.
It's actually a turned down section of mast. It's a solid piece of oak that's got some hand grips carved in it, and he just wears it on a belt around his shoulders. It's a floaty. He throws it in there, it floats, but when it starts to be a fight, you're getting hit in the chest with 150 pounds of wood.
Yeah, so he brought it over his shoulder and rammed Caliban with it and blasted him clear from this ship onto this ship and slammed him into
all the way
one.
to the far rail.
Yeah. And, yeah, that was a sight to
I'm
behold.
going to take a nap right here for a moment.
Caliban did survive that because we have very effective healers. They are serious about keeping the group alive, thankfully.
Yeah, it's a great healer. Get up! Get back in there!
And so the fight devolves, and they eventually Steve teleports up to the top of the ship over here and roasts the guy who's controlling Ping.
As a matter of fact, he times it very well because a large number. Because once we're starting to attempt to board the vessel, and most of the villains are along the rail. Well, Steve pops himself over to the forecastle up there, and he just manages to line up everybody, and he just pretty much throws a shot right down the rail and gets a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And well, that turned the tide because as soon as one falls, you start to feel a little bit better because like, all right, there's less of them and more of us. Wait, no, there's less of them. And then you go until the next guy falls, and then, well, math ensues.
Attrition.
Yeah, and you get, and then you end up winning.
And
hopefully.
Yeah. And so when they did, and it turns out that Ping relays this story about how she was captured and she was under this jerk's control, and yes, she is a pirate, but she usually minds her own business and she picks her targets. She's very selective about who she raids.
Fat, slow merchantmen with lots of money.
Yeah. The ones that like to transport slaves and whatnot. And she relays that, she'll be headed back to the Pirate Isles. This perks up Ito's ear and is like, oh, well then do you know about Joran Dax, the pirate lord that is his nemesis for all intents and purposes, even though Dax doesn't know about this character. And she's like, yeah, he's one of the 4 pirate lords and this and that, and like, do you want to come back with me? And he talks to the group, and the group says, yeah, we've got a little bit of time before we have to get back to Waterdeep and report, so we're going to, let's go save your master.
Well, in the short term, it's our original captain, original crew that brought us up here. It's like gave them a message like, this is what's going on, this is what's going to happen, and we'll be switching ships, and so he can go back and at least let everybody know where we're at.
Yeah.
As far as, okay, we didn't find the horn was not there. There's 2 less dragons in the world, so that's a plus. And now we're going to take care of something that really needs to be taken care of, and we left it deliberately vague so that no one would come start screaming orders as, no, you got to come home right now. And it's like, no, bye. And we sailed on.
Yeah. And they sailed on to the Pirate Isles, and in the process they healed up, and Philip, he likes to do a form of Tai Chi. I was getting there.
Signals from the booth.
I say Tai Chi because I figure more of you would understand and have a concept of what Tai Chi is, as opposed to the Rimgar, which comes from the Aragorn novels. It's a fantasy novels. I can't remember the author's name, but it's young adult to like high school age fantasy. It's entertaining. I enjoyed reading them, but it's a special dance type martial arts thing that he would do every morning, and our monk learned that from him, because they developed a friendship. Because even though they fought, Philip had no intent to really kill him. He was doing what he's told. He's protecting his friend Ping, and so when it came down to it and Ping got freed because of the party, Philip was willing to teach Caliban the Rimgar, and they would do that every morning. And
it is both an exercise. Well, excuse me. It is an exercise, a meditation, and also a form of worship, I suppose you could say. Something transcendent, for whatever spirits beyond, and so on. And also, it gave us the perfect opportunity for a Goliath barbarian to be up there on the boat in broad daylight doing interpretive dance.
So
it was glorious.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. I cried.
Imagine, if you will, somebody who is 7 to 8 feet tall, doing Tai Chi, interpretive dance for all intents and purposes, on the bow of a ship.
Yeah, at 15 knots. What are you doing? Oh, it's like, I know he did not just do a vogue.
And it was, again, one of those things where I wanted to add in a bit of comedy, and that was this attempt.
We got there.
Yeah. And from there, they make it to the Pirate Isle, and more wackiness ensues.
Yes, the Pirate Isles, naturally, they kind of speak for themselves. There are probably more than one, but this one seems to be probably the most well developed. It's probably a magical place. Now, some people there, I know there are different variations on the term pirate, and some are a real piece of work that they're the historically accurate pirates that, go slaughter and maim and all of that. But then you've got Mr. Depp's version, where when you hear the word Tortuga, and it's just that smile rolls onto the character's face, because it's a fun place. It's like nobody's in charge, or the governor doesn't care. He's just like, just park the boats around the point so I don't have to explain to the British Navy why I have all these extra people in my town. It's a magical place.
And this pirate isle is similar to that. Now there are 4 areas. There are 4 pirate lords that have divvied up the island. Joran Dax actually owns the entire southern half of the island, and then the northern half is split amongst the other 3. You have the Tink Master, who is the nominal pirate lord. He doesn't rule with an iron fist. You have the more freedom-loving pirates kind of nominally sailing under his flag, just because nobody's going to mess with him. The Tink Master is a gnome with an iron ship.
Yeah. Well, where everyone else, so far as we can tell, at least at this point, they're men of iron and ships of wood and so on, and usually they're using ballistas, catapults, and whatnot to do ship-to-ship fighting and so on. Whereas the Tink Master, look, a floating book. The Tink Master has actually developed a steam engine, and he has a side paddle steamer that is set up for warfare. He has developed gunpowder. He has cannon. So he's kind of in a realm unto himself. Nobody really wants to mess with him, because you can shoot crossbow bolts at an iron boat all day, and all he's going to do is blow you in half with his big round iron ball about that big.
Yeah.
So he's kind of in a realm by himself, and he has a tendency to attract a certain number of gnomes to the island, and then there are support structures in place, like they have harbors.
Yeah.
They don't have to pull it up on the beach or anything like that.
This is a developed island.
Yes, they have towns and cities and roads and so on. So it's a well-developed little island. It's just that, well, pretty much everybody doesn't pay taxes, or if they do, it's more like bribes.
Rum. Lots of rum.
See, because again, this is where the rum's gone, right here.
So you have the Tink Master, who pilots the Gearhead. That's the name of his ship, which it's a steam engine, and he controls kind of the central northern part of the island, and then on the
from 11 to 1 on the clock face.
Yeah, and then on the northwest side of the island is Valanth Fanal. Sorry, east side. That was.
You're gonna cut this part, right?
No, I'm gonna
edit.
leave it.
We might edit later.
No, I'm just gonna leave it. Thankfully, we have a fact checker in-house right now. Yeah, she was on the east side of the island, northeast. She's known as the Dark Lady. She is a drow pirate, and most of her crew is drow, and most of her people on her part of the island are drow. Just like there's a lot of gnomes and halflings in the Tink Masters area, as well as various other races, but predominantly gnomes and halflings. There are predominantly drow.
Mostly expatriates, runaway males, renegades, what have you.
Yeah.
Her part of the island, probably not as much fun.
Well, it depends on your definition.
Well, your definition of fun, true. But, it's like these people are excessively fond of sharp objects, and her fleet, her followers, they are perfectly set up as raiders. So, needless to say, oh look, another missive from the booth.
Yeah. Continue.
Anyway, the end result is we, looking at the current situation, that we have 4 lords. Now we've got a gnome, a drow, then this poor guy down below here in the south, who is a human.
Well, no, Joran Dax is a Genasi.
Oh, damn, that's right. Yeah.
Jansen Merrick is a human. Now, Jansen Merrick, and I was correct, I have the map. The Dark Lady was on the northwest part of the island. Fact checker got his facts wrong.
But he got you the map.
Thank you. On the northeast part of the island is Jansen Merrick, who is kind of in cahoots with the Dark Lady. They are lovers. They spend a lot of time together. And so you have they have a loose alliance, you know, as long as their relationship is on good terms. And then in the southern part is Joran Dax, who is a Genasi. Now, Genasis are, for all intents and purposes, humanoid genies, and he's a water Genasi, so appropriate for a pirate.
You know he's going to get away.
Yeah, he's very slippery.
You make joke.
And yeah, they get to the island and then they have to figure out what they're going to do, because the political situation is fluid. All of the pirates, they don't mess with each other. They'll raid each other's ships while they're out at sea, but they don't want a large war amongst themselves, because as long as they have this loose peace treaty, nobody's going to come mess with the pirate island.
There are several coastal nations that would love to roll in and clean the place out. Waterdeep comes to mind, along with a few others from farther south. But, of course, they know that if they go in there after them, that it's going to turn into a situation of us and them. And, well, it's like all the pirates, even if they really can't stand each other, will stand together, and their combined might is surprising. And unlike a lot of full-time navies where you do a lot of training and a lot of practicing, and then you spend very little time actually in combat, these people fight constantly. So you have a fleet of 100 ships or more full of trained warriors that kill things all the time. So nobody really wants to bite into that sandwich just yet.
No. And so we'll kind of delve into the next part of the adventure in the next episode, as it's a task to try and figure out what the party's going to do to bring this guy down. And so
politics.
a lot of role playing comes into this next section, and there's a lack of fighting, but that's because I'm trying to balance the fighting and the role playing as a DM. Too much fighting and not enough role playing, you might as well just be playing a computer game. You know, you just go out there, you kill stuff, you get loot, you get stronger, and woo! But this is a role playing game, and so I try and make them role play. You know, the answer isn't always combat, because if you try combat all the time, you will run into a situation that you will get your butt handed to you.
Probably, literally. Yeah, this is yours.
It was yours.
It was yours, yes.
So we'll start delving into the politics and the misadventures that the party undergoes.
Boy, there's a word.
Next go round. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like, share the video, subscribe to the channel. If you'd like more information about Silverwolf Comics and Games, We have a Facebook page. I also run my own Twitter and Instagram accounts. Links to those will be at the end of the video as well as down in the description below, so you can get more information about us there. And yeah, thank you for watching.